All right. I just wanted to mention one thing because I mentioned in my last video, like after the frame trap, you should go for a cross up if your opponent's playing really good defense. But a lot of people, you know, who are new to Street Fighter might not know what that is. A cross up is just the term for, you know, jumping past your opponent's defense. Like normally, if they block right, like let's say right in this situation, I'm controlling Ken, you know, and Akuma has to block me by holding backwards, away from me, away from your opponent is how you block. High, and then down and away from your opponent is how you block low attack. So, I didn't know Ken had a jumping light kick cross up. I don't even agree with that. I don't even know why that's in the game. But normally a cross up can be done with jumping light kick or jumping medium kick. I personally recommend using the medium kick version of it, you know, jumping attack, because you can only cross up, you know, obviously it's in the name, cross up. So you're crossing up to the other side of your opponent's defense. So what makes that so special in Street Fighter, I'm talking about Street Fighter, I'm not talking about any other fighting game now. It's not even in King of Fighters or Fatal Fury, anything as far as I know. I don't know if they added it, but as far as I know, you know, Street Fighter is the only game that has this. Basically, you're jumping to your opponent, and for them to properly block when you do a medium kick after you get behind your opponent, they have to switch defense. Instead of holding away from my opponent in this particular situation, it would be holding right. So this, if someone was controlling Akuma, they would have to hold right away from the opponent. Okay? So as soon as I cross my opponent's defense and get to the other side with the medium kick, they have to switch from blocking right to blocking left. And if they don't properly block left, by the time I do my medium kick, it's a counter. It will combo them. It will hit them. And I could, you know, basically get like, just off of that alone, if I do a really big combo on my opponent after crossing them up, I could get maybe 40% easily. If I have max meter, level 3, full drive meter, I could easily get maybe damn near 50% damage on my opponent. Like probably around like 40% damage. So you're wondering why that's important. The reason I say do not do jumping light kick is because the hit stun on that jumping light kick is way less than when you do the jumping medium kick. Why is that important to understand? Why? The hit stun when you hit your opponent is the amount of time that you have to combo them after it. So if I do jumping light kick and my opponent gets hit by it, the time that I have to combo my opponent after it is way smaller. The window of opportunity is way smaller than if I do a jumping medium kick. And in fact, the jumping medium kick usually has a bigger hitbox. I mean, I shouldn't even say usually, it always has a bigger hitbox. These are really, you know, there's been a few exceptions in Street Fighter history where, you know, you could cross your opponent up with, like, for example, I remember in Street Fighter 4, Sakura had like this weird jumping hard punch cross up, but I believe it only worked in the corner, and they eventually patched it because players were getting completely, I don't want to say the S word, but they were getting hitted on. You know what I'm saying? Players were completely exploiting that, and it was very difficult to block it because it never looked like a cross up at all. You know what I'm saying? And there's been a few times in Street Fighter history where it's like for example, I believe in Street Fighter 4, Ken had like a jumping hard punch cross up that like would randomly hit on the other side of the opponent. Like, you know, like I said, you'll never be able to cross your opponent up with anything consistently, as far as I know, other than crouching, jumping light kick. It's always jumping towards your opponent. So that means holding up forward, so you jump towards your opponent. But you're always going to do it in a situation where you know your range is far enough to get it. I mean, close enough to make it to the other side. If I'm here with my opponent, I'm not going to try to cross up my opponent here because I'll never make it. And he'll be able to anti-air me easily. He'll be able to easily anti-air me. That's just a jumping attack. You want to cross your opponent up when you know you're within that crouching medium kick kind of range. You know what I'm saying? Because right here, I'll make it. You know, like right around here, I'll still make it. It doesn't look like I'll make it, but like right around here, I'll make it. I'll just make it. But if you do that jumping light kick, you know, now depending on your character, you know, like in the older games, some of the weaker characters, they did not have a cross up that was really good. Like for example, Cammy in Super Turbo, her cross up was like jumping light kick, which was very difficult to combo after. So in my opinion, it made her one of the weaker characters because of it, because you know it takes away one of the stronger options in the game. And the reason why it's such a strong option is because even at the highest level, it mixes your inputs. Once you jump from one side of your opponent to the other, the motion, now, I know a lot of people say you should do a reversal. Like if you try to do the reversal in the same direction that your opponent what you was before, and you do it at the last second, it'll still count the other way in some instances. Like if you do it at the right time, I don't honestly recommend doing that. The reason I say that is because you're more likely to mess up and get counter hit. So yeah, it is possible, you know, depending on the situation but I honestly don't recommend it. Like for example, the easiest character to really anti-air a cross-up attempt, in my opinion, the two best in the game probably would be DJ and Guile, because you don't have to hold a particular direction like forward, down, you know, down, forward, punch. With Ken, Ryu, Akuma, and characters like that, Luke, you have to press towards your opponent, down, and then down towards your opponent before you press punch. You can buffer that. A lot of players that are doing that, they call it the cross cut. That basically means that you're uppercutting their cross-up attempt. How players are basically doing that is that they're inputting the motion for that uppercut as if they would normally do an anti-air, but they're pressing the punch button much late, like a little bit later, you know, to the point where the opponent's already on the other side, and it'll auto-correct itself. But it's very, like I said, I don't recommend ever doing it. It's very difficult to do. You know, like I said, you're more likely to get counter hit. I don't recommend doing it. As a high level player, I'd rather play the defense and block it and deal with playing good defense than trying to get fancy and doing a cross cut, you know, a cross up uppercut anti-air. Really, a cross cut is just a cross up anti-air, which is very difficult to do unless you're Guile or DJ or like one of those charge characters like Blanca, for example. Those are probably the easiest characters to stop a cross up with. But keep in mind that the misdirection of the opponent jumping from one side to the other, if you mistime that anti-air, you might miss entirely. And the game will still send you going in the direction that you were before he tried to jump over you. And then you're going to get counter hit, and it's going to do a lot of damage. So in my opinion, you know, never put yourself in a situation that you can get crossed up. They could cross you up, which is almost impossible in high level. But yeah, that's an essential part of Street Fighter, and you know, it's very important to understand why that's important, is that you're telling the game engine, you're telling Street Fighter's game engine that he can't block right anymore. He has to block left. So once I make it from one side to the other, the game automatically switches the direction of his inputs. So that's why they call it like a misdirection. Now, instead of having to uppercut me and do forward, down, down, forward punch, he's going to have to do back, down, down, forward punch. But there's a weird situation in Street Fighter where you could input. This only works for, I noticed with, obviously, Guile. Guile doesn't have to worry about this. DJ does not have to worry about this. Blanca does not have to worry about this. He could just keep holding down, back, and at the last second press up, kick. And if you do it correctly, it'll anti-air them. Like Guile's flash kick is probably the best in the game. DJ's, is the easiest way to anti-air even a cross-up. This particular move works really good. I would not even try to cross up a character like Blanca, DJ, Guile, unless I knew for a fact I could get away with it. If I knew they threw a projectile or something like that. If I knew they were committing to like a special move that had a long startup. Like the down back punch with Guile. You know what I'm saying? Which they probably would never do at the highest level at cross-up range anyway. Unless it was on wake-up. When you're first getting off the grounds. You know what I'm saying? So that's my best advice, man. That like it particularly works very good against characters like Ken, Luke, Akuma, Ryu, that have probably, in my opinion, the most difficult special move input in the game. Okay? So the reason is the special move is so complex to do, by the time you make it to the other side, they already lost their opportunity. Or if they try to do it, they're going to miss. So a lot of high-level players just accept the fact that they've been defeated and play defense. They just accept the fact, okay, I got to block this because the likelihood of me making a mistake or missing is much greater than me just holding the opposite direction, blocking and playing good defense. So I forgot to mention that in the previous video, that a lot of players might not know what a cross-up is, or a cross-cut and all that stuff. These are just Street Fighter fighting game terminologies to make, things a lot easier. And cross-up is an essential part of Street Fighter. Don't ever think for a second that cross-up is not an essential part of Street Fighter. I've won a lot of matches because of it against players that people think are a brick wall that you cannot get through. And then I'm beating them with basic cross-up pressure, and they fumble. They completely break.
What are you waiting for?
They completely break. And defensively, they completely fall apart after that. Especially intermediate players, especially joystick players, especially beginner players. The best high-level players are probably going to accept the fact that a player has already gotten to the other side, and let me just play really good defense there. That's my best advice. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to get fancy and listen to all these other guys talking about, oh, it's real easy. All you got to do is a cross-cut uppercut, and it'll stop the anti-air. Unless you're Guile, DJ, or Blanca, or one of those characters that has a real easy down-up anti-air motion, down-up kick, which is like basically how you do for all three of them. I don't recommend trying to even ever stop a cross-up. You know what I'm saying? I don't ever recommend it, because believe me, I've tried to get fancy, especially online. It does not work. The cross-cut is 99% of the time going to fail you, and you're going to take a lot of damage because of it. So you can listen to guys that teach you about cross cuts and stuff like that, but there's a very high failure rate there. I do not recommend that as a long-time high-level player. I do not recommend that at all.
What are you waiting for?
I recommend bracing for impact and getting used to playing defense when you normally hold back to play defense. When you're holding back away from your opponent and they cross up and they do a cross up on you, switch directions immediately and keep holding it. Now, if you see that they maybe, like, for whatever weird reason tried to empty jump you, you'll be able to act first. I don't know why an opponent would ever try to empty jump you in that situation. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? The only reason you would ever empty jump your opponent is if you know that you're trying to go for a low instead of a high, and trying to get them to you're getting them to believe that you went for a cross up, but then you immediately go for a crouching light kick instead. Like, you fake the cross up and then do crouching light kick. I do that all the time. That does work. But you also have to understand your opponent, because if you're playing against an opponent that loves to press buttons and loves to stand and jab you no matter what, that's not going to work against them. So you're going to have to accept the fact and settle for the fact that you're doing a jumping medium kick instead. The reason I say jumping medium kick is because, let's say, for example, against a E Honda player, a Blanka player that loves to spam and exploit doing Blanka ball or E Honda's headbutt, if you jump away from them at the right time, if you jump away from them and do jumping medium kick, it's going to counter hit them. And regardless of what side you land on, this is why I recommend always jumping with the medium kick cross up, is because even if you jump away from your opponent, let's say my opponent is a Blanka player or E Honda player, right? I jump away from my opponent. Instead of trying to perfect parry them, I jump away from them because I have enough time to do that if I understand the game properly. If I'm at the right distance at a reactable range, and I'm playing against an opponent that loves to spam and try to get away with doing headbutt with E Honda over and over again, or Blanka ball with Blanka, back forward punch with Blanka or E Honda, and try to wear me down like that, I'll jump away. I'll jump away with the cross up button, which is the medium kick for Ken, which is also the medium is for Kimberly as well as the medium kick. And as far as I know, it's almost always light kick or medium kick. But when you're jumping away from your opponent, the medium kick will hit on both sides of your opponent. So let's say you jump away from your opponent and you mistime it. It's still going to hit in front of your opponent as if it was a normal jumping attack. Let's say your opponent gets past you because you jumped at a different timing, and they manage to get behind you instead. Guess what? The jumping medium kick, the jump away medium kick is going to hit him whether he gets behind you or stays in front of you. So it basically allows you to hit an opponent that normally would be harder to hit, with any other button. Like, for example, if I do jump away light kick, look at that. You have to do it kind of late, and you probably won't get any combo after it. So why would you do that? When the objective of the game is to try to hurt your opponent as much as you can. So if the objective is to hurt your opponent in this game as much as you can, wouldn't you want as much hit stun as you possibly can get in that particular situation? And guess what? Jump away medium kick is going to give you way more hit stun than I would never try to do jump away light kick. That's just a wasted moment. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna cross up your opponent at point blank range, believe it or not, that jumping light kick, I don't even know why Ken has a jumping light kick cross up. That's ridiculous to me. You know what I'm saying? If I was the developers, I would take that out entirely. I don't know how difficult that is to do, but being able to cross up your opponent with a jumping light kick, in my opinion, Ryu also has that. Kimberly also has that. You know, I'm sure a lot of other players in the game have that. You know, I don't agree with that. You know what I'm saying? It's still just as easy to block. You know what I'm saying? But jumping medium kick, like I said, that's most high level players' go-to option because it has a bigger hitbox. You know, you could basically press it at any time and it's still going to come out at the right time. Almost 100% of the time, even if you press at the wrong time, it still comes out. You're going to want to do it on the way down. You know, as your opponent passes the pinnacle and starts falling down towards the opponent, that's when you press it. That's when I'm doing all that. The cross-up spin kick, the ambiguous cross-up spin kick with Ken, that's very hard to see if it hits forward or back. That's why it's such a good option. I would only certainly use it as an anti-projectile drive meter spin kick in the air, or if I knew for a fact I was going to cross up my opponent. The reason I say that is look at that. I get 3 jabs after that. On hit, I got 3 jabs. So what does that tell you? That basically you can do anything after that. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Uppercut. Easy hard punch uppercut after that. And guess what? You can level 3 after that, and it'll give you the full animation. You know what I'm saying? But you have to do it fast. You know what I'm saying? That any of the other uppercuts are not going to give you the full animation. Only the hard punch uppercut will give you the full animation. Like for example, if I do medium punch, I just demonstrated light punch. So medium punch, not going to get the full animation. So why would you waste it? Right? If the objective is to get as much damage as you can, you cannot waste an entire level 3 that takes at least 1 round to get. Actually, I was able to do it in less than a round, but it usually takes at least 1 round to get a level 3. At the highest level against the best players in the world, by the start of round 2, they probably either already have a level 3 like I always do, because I'm just so amazing, or they're on the verge of getting it. So in my best advice, once you start a level 2, you're probably going to want to play a little bit safer than you can in level 1. You know, round 1, no one has a level 1 super. No one has a level 2 super. No one has a level 3 super. You could throw stuff out there that normally you wouldn't be able to get away with at the end of round 2, at the start of round 3. You can't do that anymore. These are kind of the Street Fighter philosophies, you know, that you have to kind of install in your DNA, you know, if you want to win and be the best. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just giving my best advice as a longtime high-level Street Fighter player. Nobody in the fighting game community that has ever played me can say that I'm washed up or I'm trash or anything like that, because, you know, I've spanked like basically everybody. 90, like, you know, basically no high-level player out there could say that if they've ever played against me that I'm an easy opponent. They'll never be able to say that about me. You know what I'm saying? So that's my best advice. You know what I mean? These are things that, like, understanding, you know, what the proper play is very essential. Like, is the proper play still viable? You know, if he has a level 3, I can't do this with Ken no more. I can't do hard kick, Dragon Lash with Ken and try to frame trap my opponent. That's an easy level 3 right there. That's no longer an option. You know what I'm saying? That's my best advice. I was just trying to explain, like, cross-ups, just in case a lot of players don't know. Cross-ups is really only something particular to Street Fighter. You know, there's a lot of I'm not sure about Dragon Ball FighterZ. I don't think they have cross-ups in that. They might. I don't heavily play Dragon Ball FighterZ as much anymore, but I thought the game was phenomenal. It was fantastic. You know what I'm saying? Excellent fighting game. You know, the Japanese developers are very talented. You know, I can't deny that. You know, they're very talented. God has given them a gift that not so many people can really, you know, accomplish. But you know, I'm gonna end it there. I didn't want to make the video too long. You know, I probably won't start playing ranked until until I get a new controller. So, but like I said, it won't be anytime soon because I don't even go to tournaments or anything like that. But make sure you understand that, and make sure you know, you use that at the highest level because it's essential. Like, for example, if he misses, you know, if he misses a normal attack, you know, you could go for cross up there. You know, I would recommend going for counter hit, but you can go for it if he misses the right, you know, attack. I always recommend, and I feel like that, you know, as bad, you know, I know a lot of Ken players are saying never do standing medium kick unless it's a counter hit. But guess what? The startup of those projectile motions, before it's fully active, you can actually slip in. A lot of times you can slip that standing medium kick in. Don't sleep on that. Against Guile, against Akuma, against Ryu, do not sleep on that. You know, I would much rather just drive impact through the projectile and get an easier combo where I feel like everyone could do this. And you know what I mean? But you know, I'm end the video there, man. So I hope you was able to learn something, if anything.